All right, let's get our other Facebook groups in here before it's officially time to go. All right, guys, welcome in. It is 6:03 Mountain Time, which means it's Tuesday, February 1st, which means it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell and joined by, as always, on Tuesday nights for Building the Broncos, Carl Dumler. Carl, how you doing today, man? Never a dull moment in Broncos country.
That's for sure. They like to be in the news, both good and bad. It seems like there was good news of looks like Broncos are going to be sold. We're going to be moving forward with ownership, and then of course the Flores situation. We'll get into all that, but yeah, we never run out of things to talk about. That's for sure. Even when we do this show more than once a day sometimes, and there's still something to talk about. And that's the love of football, man. You got to love it that it's year round now.
Yep. No, absolutely year round, especially with the NFL Combine and everything going in there. But let's say hello to some people in here. Mike Woodward, the half drunk, fully hungover head coaching interviews with equals Vic Fangio. I was half drunk, fully hungover almost that entire tenure. I've been since 2015 for the Broncos. Let's be real. It's been rough. We have Nathan saying, now we know why Brian Flores wasn't interviewed. Float saying that he's just angry he didn't get the job. Got King of Kings saying, accusing Elway of a hangover 24 hours later. I mean, you never get hungover if you keep drinking, right, Carl? Not to get too into the weeds there. I was in a fraternity. I've seen things as far as the consumption of alcohol. God. Maybe I don't want to get you to say anything on the record with your your background here. Lawrence Rivera. Hey guys, I just want to say Flores did better than Vic with the Dolphins. I'd say he has merit. This is like the Deshaun Watson thing for me, where there's accusations going on and we don't have all the information. We just have a he says, they says situation. So best to kind of let it play out and put out the he says versus they says as information, not fact, and just let the chips fall as they may. It's right. No doubt I guess just a statement on it before bringing people in here. Brian Flores is put out a common action lawsuit against the NFL, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos and also John Doe teams. I think it said on there. It gave me a good chuckle seeing that on there. And the Broncos in there specifically that the Broncos staff for the interview in 2019, where they interviewed Vance Joseph, Kyle Shanahan, and Brian Flores. In the class action lawsuit, it says that Elway, Ellis, and the rest, whoever interviewed him, showed up an hour late and were pretty obviously hungover. This is, again, coming from the class action lawsuit PDF that I combed over. I think it was point number 21 in this class action lawsuit. So that's what Flores said. The Broncos said, released a statement today. Patrick Smythe, busy at work, just got the head coaching interview done. Now busy with this. I don't think Patrick Smythe sleeps, man. He's a busy dude. But had a statement today, said that they have record that the interview happened on time, 7:30 a.m. It was 3.5 hours long. There are detailed notes, and they are going to fight the allegation that this happened. Carl, I guess did I lay that out there? Is there anything else that you want to touch on with that information? Obviously, we can get to the chat here. I'm going to ask you guys to try to be civil with this as much as you can, because it is a very inflammatory conversation, and we all have biases one way or another that could lead to takes on this. But again, just trying to walk that line and understand what the information is that we have right now.
Yeah, I'd say until there's more information that comes out right now, you can't really lean one way or the other. Yep. It's a difficult situation, and I think I'd be careful to make a judgment either way on this. I want to listen to what Flores has to say, because I do think that the NFL has not always done well with the minority coaching area, and they're working on it, but sometimes the way they're working on it isn't always the best way. But like I said, we just got to be careful with all of this, that we don't go one way or the other, because both sides have a story to tell, and it's kind of, what's the old saying? There's always three stories.
Three sides.
There's three sides to a story. His, and the truth. And so we're just gonna have to wait and see if there's more details that come out about this. Maybe there won't be more details, and we'll just kind of see. But Flores has made the decision that he's willing to put his entire career on the line. And I mean, you got to give the guy credit for being willing to pretty much kind of blacklist himself from the NFL with this. And hey, if this is the hill that he wants to die on, more power to him.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see how it all plays out and what happens with it all. I guess the other elephant in the room here is that the truth of the matter is, and there's reports dating back there from like Woody Page back when Elway was playing, that Elway would go to a bar, slam 10 beers, and get behind the wheel and drive into a Colorado sunset kind of thing. Elway is a pretty well-known drinker. I wouldn't use the word alcoholic, but he does enjoy beverages, specifically the brown, from what I understand. And that there's been a case where I came across John Elway in downtown Indianapolis and been like, yep, he's enjoying himself. So was I.
Yep.
He's an adult and he can make that decision. But stuff like that, either way, it does look, it's bad for the Broncos representation. It's not a good look for the league on the whole. And just in general, it's ugly, but that's going to happen when you have a lot of these people, a lot of money, a lot of power. Stuff like this is going to come to the surface. And I think that we do need to acknowledge that there are problems in the league when it comes to representation. When there are only 2 minority head coaches and 70% of the league is African-American and there are 0 owners who are African-American, I think it's fair to question representation in those situations. This specific one, though, we'll see how it plays out. I do not think that it is one that and I don't want to put you on the spot here, Carl. We got Colby coming in here. We had a few more supers. Let's get to Colby here. Thank you so much, Colby, for the Facebook. We appreciate you. I think we also had Wildner earlier also. The big thing here is I don't want to debate the merits or the working, how effectiveness of the Rooney Rule is. Obviously, there is a problem, but is this a specific symptom of the problem? It's hard to say from where we sit, but it's either way, it sucks. It sucks the Broncos are involved. It sucks that this Flores is saying this happened. It sucks that the NFL is having this happen, but it's where we are.
It is. And, I don't doubt that there are teams that have coaching interviews that they don't take all that serious.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Rooney Rule or not, I think there's still even other coaches that aren't taken as serious, but maybe they're doing a favor for somebody. There's a lot of nepotism that goes into the NFL. Yeah. And, it's kind of like when the Broncos drafted Chad Kelly. Yep. There's a lot of rumors that was kind of a favor kind of thing. Yep. And I want to get to Rodney Garcia here saying, good evening, Broncos country. Hope everyone is having a blessed day. Right back at you, Rodney. Appreciate you joining us here this evening. And we got Reggie McDowell coming in with a $5 super. Really appreciate that. Saying, unfortunately, you can't make owners hire who they should. Wish we had hired him. Anything was better than Vic. And that's, again, we don't know what was going on in those interviews. No. We got speculations of things that kind of came out of who had good interviews, who didn't. It's kind of like when Vance Joseph was hired. There's a lot of rumors of Shanahan having the best interview, blowing people away, and then Joe Ellis kind of stepping in saying, no, we're not hiring this guy. So, again, there's just so many things that go into this, even beyond just the interview process. Did you watch the behind the scenes episode?
Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I really laughed we're still in the honeymoon phase, so everything that Hackett does, we're swooning over. But I really got a good laugh out of the when he's in the garage just going through stuff. And it's like, oh, a gold suit, tiara. This is high priority stuff. We got to bring this with. And the camera's got. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like, no, I'm just fucking with you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
just being weird. I just felt that nervous energy having to make a joke just because I'm on camera. I better do something funny. Totally relatable. That was great. But yeah, it looked like a good, thorough process. From the 20-minute video that we saw, but who knows?
Right. And so, again, we don't know what's all going on. And I loved the part where they talked about the whole process. They said the interview is only part of what we do. Mm-hmm. There's background checks. There's interviews with past coaches they've worked with, past organizations they've worked with. They get into the nitty gritty. It's kind of like we're going to talk about the Senior Bowl a little bit today, I think. And
we will.
It's part of the process, but you can't get too overhyped by a player having a great week at Senior Bowl it's down there at Mobile, and you can't get too down if they have a bad week. It's part of the process. It's part of the evaluation.
It depends on the type of bad week. If they're going in there and like blowing up at coaches and looking uninterested and stuff like that, then that says something. But as far as the actual play, the tape itself should be the most important thing. It's important, though, to see these guys go side by side, especially for some of these smaller school guys. Rodney Garcia coming in. So the Broncos are up for sale, and since Robert F. Smith opted out to bid, so I saw that today, is Peyton Manning's still up for bidding. It would be a group with Peyton Manning. That's the thing. It's not just going to be Peyton Manning. Yes, I would say he's still in the running for that situation. I would say that he is not the likely owner in this situation, given that he's going to have to be backed up by somebody with way more money, and there are like stipulations as far as how many people can be involved, how much every single person has to go. I don't remember the exact specific details for the ownership group. I think it's like,
I feel like it's, if you want to be the face of the ownership group, you have to contribute something like 10%, if I remember right. So it'll kind of depend on how much the team sales for. So Manning and them, last I heard, the rough estimate of all the Mannings together was they were worth somewhere between $400 and $500 million. So it kind of fits with the estimation of how much the team is going to cost of that $4 or $5 billion. Do they want to put all their eggs in this one basket? That's asking a lot.
Do it, do it, Manning. It could impact it. Again, the stuff today maybe impacts John Elway as well. Just being involved with the Broncos going forward. And there's been a lot of stuff behind the scenes about John Elway's involvement. I wouldn't say meddling is the right word, but just some boys club kind of acting and alcohol consumption involved with working with the Broncos, which is not great. You don't want to have that situation going on from the head of your organization, but we'll see how it plays out. Don't want to disparage completely Elway because he did a lot of good things for Denver, but at the same time, he is a human being, and human beings make mistakes. He can be an idol for you, but you understand that he's going to make mistakes out there. Miguel coming in saying, "Sup, fellas, sounds like the Broncos interviews are treated like a meeting agenda. If so, I'm sure they will turn in the minutes. Either way, I'm sure the truth will come out." Yeah, it does sound like there were documented notes and stuff that will come out. And also, I think there's I can't think of what the exact word is. Did not go to law school, folks. It's far enough in the past where I don't know if it'll hold in court. There's some like specific law about how long ago that occurred that it maybe is not still could be used in court, but I don't know. We'll see if that's just me reading one thing and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that law, and moving on. So we'll see. But we got Lawrence Rivera coming in saying, I think they did the same thing with Bieniemy though. Reed says he should have gotten hired 2 years ago. He feels he's way Reed, but he'll take him if no one else does. So maybe with Eric Bieniemy, who knows? I've heard talk that Eric Bieniemy has been struggled in interviews, like didn't even know the personnel, the roster of the Broncos and coming into those interviews. And that's like the preparation where you need to know like who the players are on your team and what your plan is for them. And that's been an issue with Bieniemy. Right. That's pure hearsay on my end. I will admit that fully. I wasn't in the interview to say that or to hear that, but that's a concern.
Okay. I know Albright reported on that.
Okay.
He said that's what he was told was Bieniemy was asked about players on the team. And you think he plays the Broncos twice a year, and he's been playing the Broncos twice a year for a lot of years here. You would think you'd know at least a few of the players' names. And they said, nope, this guy was not prepared, did horrible in the interview. There's a couple guys that really struggled, didn't have any clue who was on the roster. And it sounds like even a couple of them came in. They pretty much wanted to blow up the entire roster, go get their guys, get everything. And I don't fully blame them, but it's kind of one of those things. You can't blow up a 53-man roster. You don't have the money. You don't have the resources to do that. You got to do it over time. So you got to figure out how to work with what you got until you can get what you want.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of guys that don't have that kind of mindset. That's part of what attracted them to Hackett was the fact that he came in, and it wasn't that he was putting out a wish list of, hey, I want to go get Rodgers. I want to do this, this, and this. It was, here's what I can do with the 53 players, or actually it's not 53 under contract right now, but however many are under contract. He's like, this is what I can do with the players that are here. And he had a huge plan just for the players that are here. And that really won over the room, just seeing how prepared he was.
Yeah.
These are the interviews for, you're helping run a multi-billion-dollar business. They want to see that you're actually going to come in and be prepared for the interview. Mm-hmm. And Bieniemy just doesn't seem to put in the work. Now, again, that's just, I'm not, like you said, we're not in the interview actually being a part of that. It's what's kind of the information that's come out about him.
Yep. Also, Bieniemy has Me Too stuff in his time in Boulder as well that would make him a tough hire in Denver. And I was told that it was more of a throwing a bone to some CU people in the Broncos organization, giving or helping the CU organization to prop somebody up that's attached to the Colorado football team. So who knows? Nathan coming in here. Good to see you, Nathan. Always love seeing that. The picture is like so small on my screen, but it looks like you have a killer mustache. So I want to give props to the mustache there. My wife will not says I'll be divorced if I get a mustache, but one day it's coming up. I turned 30 on Sunday, so maybe I should just rock it for my one birthday or for my 30th birthday. It seems that Vic's scheme can work versus Mahomes. Do you think any of the candidates will continue to run and build up that scheme? Schemes are always constantly changing, and if you are a team that is trying to mimic what's working, odds are you are going to be behind the ball. You're not innovative in that case. You're replicating everybody. So I'm guessing that you're going to see a ton more too high next season. And even though too high, I think is the way to go. A death by 1,000 paper cuts versus, seppuku to the chest with the Mahomes led offense. I think that's the way to go. But the thing about, about that scheme is you do want to run it. I think it's a big part of the interview process as well. From my understanding is that Peyton has grown quite fond of the scheme, thinking that it is the way to slow down Mahomes. But who knows? I don't think that, I think the bigger thing coming out of this, and it's seen what the Bengals did with their cover one, rushing guys, it's more about allocating bodies to coverage than it is the too high safeties so much. I mean, you need to be able to mix it up. But when you send 5 guys against Mahomes, just, good luck. We'll see you next time. But the Bengals rushing 3, Tampa Bay last year in the Super Bowl rushing 4, Vic Fangio refusing to blitz versus Patrick Mahomes. There's something in the sauce there that works against him. So I want to look out for that.
All right, we got Rodney coming back again saying, I would love to see Manning to own the Broncos. Maybe that will attract Rodgers to come to Denver. Overall, I see a future for the Broncos. Part of my one concern here, there's a really good chance the Rodgers situation is probably figured out before ownership is figured out.
Oh, 6 months.
Now maybe they said before the start of the 2022 season. Now, does that mean like the actual games being played, or does that mean the beginning of the league year? Because those are 2 very different dates, obviously.
It said, I read 6 months. So that would mean, because the league year starts with free agency opening, right? Technically, like it is 2022 free agency that opens up in March.
Yeah.
So there's no way it's happening before then. There's no way. There's no way they're going to sell them in a month. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when you're talking multi-billion dollars, it's not happening.
Yep. But anyway, Rodney come in. Definitely, I would see the Rodgers situation is going to be figured out prior to Broncos ownership. So we'll see who it is. It is unfortunate. I think that Robert F. Smith is dropping out of the, not dropping out, but saying that he's not really a candidate. But we'll see the names when we find them. That's the biggest thing. And you can hope for a good owner. Somebody that's going to bring money into this, but you also hope for somebody that is empowering those guys around them. You don't want to have the Jerry Joneses of the world. While he can make, players rich and bring the brand and everything like that and build Jerry World, even though it's east-west facing, what the hell are they thinking? That still makes me laugh. They paid that huge stadium and it's facing the direction of the sun where it's like unplayable for some of the day. But Rodney coming back in. Rodney Garcia, what are some good edge rushers that the Broncos should consider in the draft? Oh, Rodney, you came to the right place. Let's take Thibodeau and Hutchinson off the table. There are a lot of good other edge rushers, and let's focus on the Senior Bowl guys right now as well, because there are some names there. Somebody that was apparently flashing pretty well today against Daniel Falele, I think I said his name right, out of Minnesota, is Myjie Sanders, edge rusher out of Cincinnati. He's one that could go the end of round 1 to sometime round 2. Cam Thomas out of San Diego State is kind of more of a 5-tech edge rusher hybrid type with good length and power. My kind of edge rusher, to be completely honest. I like the more pocket crunching power kind of guys that can play gap and a half or 2 gap. Cam Thomas can do that pretty well. And the other edge rusher today that was standing out was, oh my gosh, his name is escaped. Oh, Jermaine Johnson, the second. Jermaine Johnson, the second from Florida State, transferred there from Georgia this year. I think it was ESPN's Justin Reed that said that Jermaine Johnson was the most impressive player at the Senior Bowl today in his eyes. So keep an eye out for him. I think he could go easily as the third edge rusher off the board with just, after Hutchinson and Thibodeau, how kind of jumbled up it is. So we'll see. But Jermaine Johnson is one to keep an eye out for. Todd, want to say hi to you, Todd. Good to see you, buddy. Hi to you. And I hope your family and everybody's doing well. Yeah, let's keep it going. we're going to get on Scott here pretty soon when he's ready. But Carl, any other thoughts here on the Brian Flores stuff with the Broncos before we move on too far?
No, I think we've covered most of it that I would be comfortable talking about at least at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for sure in the end. And, what changes does the NFL make that even if the Flores stuff isn't what it is, it's still got to get the NFL talking about what are we doing in this situation? What are we doing to help make sure that the best candidates are really getting the jobs for these jobs? Like I said, I would say the biggest problem in the NFL really is the nepotism and just it is the old boys club. Like there's a lot of guys that keep getting jobs that should be not getting jobs, that have no clue what they're doing. You think about Balk down in with the Jaguars. Like there's coaches coming to ownership and saying, I want this job, but not if he's here. And there's been multiple coaches saying that over and over again. You would think that would be a sign to ownership. Hey, this guy should not have his job, but they still continue to stick with him.
Yep. The only thing as far as will this affect our new owner search from Lawrence Rivera to me is that I probably would say that Elway's just being attached to this at all with the sale is probably not going to be a guy who's going to be associated with the new ownership group as being a part of the team that buys the Denver Broncos. But we'll see. I don't know. Money talks. Things can change. We'll have new information tomorrow that will continue to come out, and we will, as anybody should, as new information comes out, you change your mind because that's what an intelligent human being does. Rodney Garcia coming back in. This is like the 10th time, Rodney. We love you. Keep it coming. Dang, that's some good names. I'll have to keep an eye out. I out for in the draft. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Rodney. You're great. Nathan coming back in too. Are there any drills, measurements in the Senior Bowl Combine you feel are overrated? In the Senior Bowl / Combine? Well, I will put it this way. Every single one is slightly overrated, but there are specific instances where you're looking for differences. Number one thing is you should be looking at the tape as number one. That should be the basis of all your grades. But I like to use some of these measurement stuffs as like a tiebreaker. So if you have two guys that are on the same tier, one of them has better arm length than the other, but their tape was exactly the same, or one of them, let's say, had bad arm length, that would change the grade for me. There are some stuff like that is weird that has good correlation with success in the NFL, like 40-yard dash time for offensive linemen. Why? I mean, how often do you actually see an offensive lineman run 40 yards down the field? Don't know, but there's actually some data out there that says that it's a decent indicator of guys being good players at offensive line in the NFL from some recent studies. So biggest ones, any ones that are overrated. I don't really think the 40-yard dash for wide receiver is overrated to a point, right? Like if you're running a 4.4, 4.5, you're fine. If you're running a 4.8, then we got problems. So every single one matters. It's in the thresholds or on the margins where it can be unfortunate. The ones I always look for though, the 10-yard split, explosiveness off the snap, both the broad and the vertical jump, that's more explosiveness measurements, and the 3-cone, showing that agility, especially for those edge rushers' ability to turn the corner with the 3-cone. Really, really important. So we'll see. Who knows about some of these ones too. So you want to trust the tape. Yeah. That's why they say it's a cliche for a reason.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say one that sounds like they're getting rid of, the Wonderlic test.
Oh, yes.
That was one. Like I said, most of these, it's more about, do they meet the minimum threshold? Then did they test out of the waters on this compared to everybody else kind of thing?
Yep.
That's more of what I'm looking for. And like bench press is another that they kind of talk about that can sometimes be a little overrated. But that one's more about showing, did the guy put in the work to get ready for this more than anything else? Like, is this a number that I expected them to get? Or is this way below? Some guys show up to the combine and are so out of shape and you're just like, okay, you're not a hard worker. That's more my bigger concern there than can this guy play football or not? Like if they're at the combine, they could play football. Only so many guys get invited each year.
Yeah.
And so it's just trying to tell the difference between who's going to work hard, who's not.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We got John Houston coming in here, $4.99 super over on YouTube. Thank you so much, John. Is it concerning Pickett didn't want to get his hands measured? I heard they were around 8 inches. Howell only measured it in at 6'2", smaller than expected. I would say it is concerning that Pickett didn't want to get his hands measured. And I think the whole double jointed, I'm working on exercises to get it measured is, that's all red flags for me. This is weird. This is an outlier, no matter how you slice it. And I am very data driven in life, right? I want to have a basis for decisions. And if I can trust math to do that, then God bless. Trust my head over my heart most times. So that this raises a lot of red flags for me. It's like the whole, not to give myself too much emotional damage here, but the whole AJ Epinesa thing when he ran poorly at the combine. And it's like, yeah, can still be a good player, but he has like historically, some of these numbers are historically bad for his position. That matters, right? He can still be a good player, but like, can he be great? I don't know. So the hand stuff is concerning. He had a lot of fumbles in college too, not associated with like a read zone option kind of thing. It's like him just getting hit and losing the ball. In the second half of the North Carolina Pittsburgh game this year, I thought Pickett looked like he looked terrible in that weather. Now the weather was bad in that second half. Most quarterbacks would look bad there, but it really looked like it infected Pickett. And some people are like, oh, he plays in Pittsburgh. That's cold weather. He should be fine. How late? And you guys realize like college football is over like the second week in November. Like how many actually bad weather games does he have to play? Even though he is in Pittsburgh, it's worth asking. Especially because ACC is up and down the coast there, so he's getting some games probably in Miami in November as well, Tallahassee. So it is concerning. For me, we'll see how it plays. Sure. He had some fumbled snaps today too, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those. It might have just been better of get the measurement and then figure out, okay, how do I move forward, even if it comes in small? How do I talk to teams about this instead of making it even more of a question, even more of a talking point, because you weren't willing to get measured at this point, and you keep going back to this double jointed thing and saying like it's this really big deal when other quarterbacks have been double jointed before and it didn't show up in their measurements, and so some of those things, it's just like there's too much cloud covering this whole situation to feel comfortable with it. And I always thought he was kind of the one that, Willis is the one that could see his stock rise or fall more than probably anybody else here at the Senior Bowl, but Pickett's kind of that next guy with the offseason measurements and everything else that could really see his stock just plummet, going from possibly a top 15 pick to second round, third round kind of guy. Because again, those measurements, we're trying to meet a minimum threshold. He doesn't need to have 10.5-inch hands, but he comes in at 8-inch hands. We're going to have some discussions of where can he play and how good can he be in the NFL, because the ball's even a little bit bigger in the NFL than what he had in college.
Yep. Yeah, it's to make this point, I think Kenny Pickett is a fine quarterback, and if the Broncos were picking 26 and he was there, take a swing. Yeah, that's fine, because that's the Paxton Lynch pick, right? Like, oh, this could hit. He's got some things to work with, but if he doesn't, as long as we don't waste multiple years on the wrong quarterback, it doesn't kill us completely. The Broncos didn't have a totally terrible roster because they drafted Paxton Lynch. It's committing multiple years to a guy who's not it that kills your team. So that concerns me. I don't want any of these guys at 9, but we'll see. Broncos country and the Broncos themselves might talk themselves into it, because it's getting close to closing time at the bar, and there's not a lot of good lookers left, but you don't want to go home lonely. Coming in, do you think, from Miguel, do you think every NFL team should host the draft and the Super Bowl? Just curious. I'm going to go with a big fat no on this one, because I lived in Iowa for 28 years. I guess Iowa and Illinois. And then I moved to Seattle. I'm never going somewhere where it is average below freezing during the wintertime by choice ever again. Like, why would I do that to myself? Sorry, anybody who's living in the cold places. So like imagine Boston, or what is it? Wherever the heck the Patriots play, Foxborough hosting the Super Bowl in February. What?
Wisconsin,
Green Bay. Yeah. Hosting the Super Bowl. I mean, heck, even Seattle, I'm in Seattle, but like rains here every day in winter. Like, that would be miserable, a miserable experience. I don't know if you built the dome, maybe then I could see that. But I think there should be some obligations to protect the fan experience. I know football should be played in the elements, but it's still the Super Bowl, played in the elements to get there. But once you get there, it should be an experience. The draft, I can kind of see it going either way. You need to have a big enough convention center kind of thing, where it's not like we had in Chicago a few years ago, where it's like, oh, it's 20 degrees in April and we have 2 people outside day 3 of the NFL draft because the weather is miserable. Like it's not a good experience. I wouldn't be about that.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. The Super Bowl really is, it's like a week-long party, if not longer, for the host city. And you want to make sure, like I said, that experience is a great one that people want to come back to the city. It's a big money maker for any city that takes on that. So
Yeah.
I would not want to see that in Green Bay. That gives too much of an advantage one way or the other for a team. You never know what kind of weather you'd be getting. Tomorrow's supposed to be -20 wind chill where I'm at. And I would not want to be going to a game like the Super Bowl in that kind of weather. But we got Rodney coming back in again. Thank you, Rodney. Really excited to see KJ Hamler back next season, healthy and ready to go. He has that speed to hit the seam for a deep ball pass. Can't wait. I miss it too. I mean, you saw this offense kind of fall off a cliff once KJ Hamler went out of the game. And it wasn't all just because KJ Hamler is missing, but when teams have to worry about that kind of threat, even when you don't throw that, but maybe 2 or 3 times a game, you still got to respect it. You still got to keep that safety back. The Broncos with their run game, they wanted light boxes, but teams were able to load up because there just wasn't that deep threat attack to really challenge them on a regular basis. We'll see how quickly KJ Hamler comes back. Here's the problem: is it was an ACL and other things.
Plus,
yeah. So we don't know what those other things for sure were. And a guy for speed, like speed comes back last. You can get stability in your leg, but you have to rebuild up all of that athleticism that you've lost because you've not been able to run on that leg with your full ability. You've not been able to go through your full training like you did before. And so I think he's going to be more of a second half of the season impact kind of guy. I think those first 8 weeks, if you can get anything out of him in the first 8 weeks, you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, he tore up his knee real bad. I'm hoping that he can come back and be healthy because the Broncos need speed. It's at a premium in the NFL. Even though Jamison Williams just tore his ACL, it sounds like it was just his ACL on a clean tear. So we'll see how back he can get, how quickly he can come back. It's also his first one compared to Hamler's second on that knee, but you need speed in the NFL. It's not just about scoring points. It is about just scoring points, but like you have to find means to get there. One of the best ways to do that is to create explosive pass plays. And the best way to do that is to have explosive athletes on the perimeter. I guess that's the second best way. The best way to do that is to have an elite quarterback. I digress. But you want to have KJ Hamler out there just to give you a variety of weapons as well. And I don't want to be a correlation correlation equals causation, but I think you're right. The Broncos offense did really fall off after KJ Hamler got hurt. Was it the Baltimore game even? Like week 4?
I think it was.
Wow. So really there's a stark dichotomy of Broncos pre and post KJ Hamler injury as far as offensive output. It's not because the Broncos played terrible defenses those weeks and Teddy Bridgewater was healthy, pre-concussion and post-concussion. I digress. Hopefully we get KJ Hamler back out there. Fun player. Only guy the Broncos have that's like him too. They had Deontay Spencer, but like he just doesn't have it as far as a receiver. Fine. I wouldn't even say a fine specialist. I don't want to completely bury the guy, but hopefully Broncos can upgrade the kicking and punting returning position next season. Travis Tarbox coming in. Evening, fellas. Good evening to you, Travis. Hope you're doing well. Not to bring up a touchy subject too late, but I just think it's wrong what Brian Flores is doing. Just my opinion. Denver Broncos for life. You can have that opinion. I am a scientist at heart, so I am very much okay, this is a hypothesis testing time, and we are gathering data. It's the observation period, and we're going to gather more information as it goes along. Trying not to rush into any judgments. The only thing that does sound reasonable to me is Elway with the drinking stuff. Who knows if that's impacting him on the job, but there's just like priors to that is saying, okay, that's plausible. The other stuff, I don't know. Broncos did hire an African-American coach beforehand. That's, kind of like, the one person saying something terrible. It's like, well, I have a African-American friend. It's like, well, you still said something terrible. So who knows in that regard, but we'll see how it plays out. Again, just asking for patience on that one and hopefully the truth comes out. Rodney Garcia, getting an offensive line stud in the draft for right tackle. Whew, Carl, any thoughts on any right tackles that Broncos might be getting at 9?
I mean, it's every team needs offensive tackle help. You look at especially the top 10 teams that you could go and say, yes, this team needs this. So it's tough to see that a great one is going to fall to the Broncos, that you're really going to feel great at 10, but you might have to overdraft the position like the Broncos did with Garrett Bowles. I don't think he was the 20th best player in that draft, but they needed a left tackle so bad they were willing to overdraft the position. So you might be looking at like a Charles Cross, and I think he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But the other part of it is left tackle, right tackle. You know, are you getting a guy that's a true right tackle for the position? When Charles Cross played left tackle, I don't know. And like I said, Aquanu is another one, but I've seen him going number 1 overall in some mock drafts lately.
Yeah,
I would love to have him there at 9, but if that doesn't happen, you know, it just, and I still don't know if the Broncos are going to have pick 9. You know, it'd be nice if they do, but it'd also be nice if they don't, because that means something else great happened for them. And so it's just, we'll see what they do at that right tackle position. I think if they go trade that pick away, I think they're probably looking to free agency to fill that right tackle spot, and just hope that with the veteran quarterback and a cheap right tackle spot, they can still make that work. You know, the quarterback can cover up some of that weakness.
They have to go into the draft regardless with right tackle to get prior to the draft, whether that be Bobby Massey coming back or somebody the Packers are probably moving on from. Billy Turner did pretty well at right tackle for the Broncos in an abbreviated stint, has done that well there in Green Bay, and it sounds like he's going to be a cap casualty there. So maybe you could bring Billy Turner back to Denver. Familiarity here, familiar with Hackett. You have a need, and also Billy Turner as a versatile piece, if you do end up getting a rookie right tackle, is a good one to have. So Travis coming in, any of these guys standing out so far, the Senior Bowl practices. We'll get Scott in here in a bit. Also had a question from, I think it was John Houston, saying, could Sam Howell be a better version of Baker Mayfield? I think he could be. I'd say the path to walk that is, I mean, I guess it really depends. I'm not a super big fan of Baker Mayfield either. So it's like, I guess he could be better than Baker Mayfield, because I don't think Baker Mayfield is that great. I will say that Sam Howell I would think he has a better arm than Baker Mayfield, slightly. I could be off on that one. I think they're close, but I think Sam Howell can actually put a little bit more power on it. I think Baker Mayfield sees the field better. And I think he's a little bit more accurate play-by-play than Howell. But Howell is 21, where Baker came into the league 2 years older. So who knows what he turns into. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he can do the rest of this week, but it doesn't sound like he really stood out today.
I got a little nervous watching him just in games this year, where because he didn't trust his playmakers, he developed a lot of bad habits. His eyes dropped real quick. He'd take off running sometimes before he ever needed to.
Do you think that, not to cut you off,
he's a better runner.
Scheme? I wonder if that's scheme, because Phil Luongo, I just have a vendetta against Phil Luongo. I hate the North Carolina offensive coordinator, but like a lot of their run was like deep shot or tuck and run. I almost wonder if the dropping the eyes and running it was a part of what he was supposed to do.
I think on some plays.
Yeah.
I think there's others that you could tell, like, at least in my opinion, you could tell like he was supposed to stay in there, kind of go through a little bit more. And he just was that, if that first read wasn't open, I'm taking off. You know, I trust my legs better than I do trying to get to this playmaker or and he didn't do that as much the year before when I think he trusted his playmakers a lot more. So I don't think it's beyond the realm of belief that he could be better at it. You know, once he gets to the NFL, and Broncos have plenty of weapons for him, so he can trust them. And I think he would be a good fit with Hackett's system, where they really want to get to the play action. They want to get the quarterback on the move. They want to give him some easy reads with getting that first receiver open. I think he could be a really good fit for the Broncos. It's just a matter of, he does have some bad habits. He makes some really bad decisions at times, and he tries to play hero ball way too often. You know, we saw it with Drew Lock, and I hated it, where there's just plays like, just either take the sack, throw it away, don't throw into triple coverage. Oh no, we're going to triple coverage. And
first down, and goal to go. God, in the 20-yard line. Yeah, gosh. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's the hero ball.
It reminds me. Right. It reminds me of there's a Twitter video going around of people saying people keep talking about how Tua can't keep up with Mahomes, and the throw that they show of Tua is him throwing into triple coverage.
Yep.
And it's like, and it became a touchdown, but it's like that was not a good process. No. Yes, the results were great, but the process was a horrible decision. That's not the play that you show to show that he can keep up with Mahomes. But I got Nathan coming in here saying, is Falele a reach at 9 for right tackle? Yes.
I would say absolutely. He is a freak as far as his size goes. But I don't know. Like I could see him sneak into the round one, and if he like came out today and was amazing, that'd be one thing. But I saw a few reps with him against Myjai Sanders. Again, it's just day one, but like flattening him. I think there was a rep that he actually got Flele on the ground. Tall man, center of gravity is going to be a little taller on him too, so that makes it harder. But at 9, that's a bit of a reach. I could see him sneak into the back of round 1 just because that's this class and the demand at the tackle position. Trevor Penning's another name that sticks out there that could be that way. But we'll get to Scott here in about 5 minutes or so if he's comfortable coming on and talking a little bit of stuff. He looks like he's falling asleep back there. I know he's been busy. He's looking. If anybody can find the numbers for the roster of the Senior Bowl too, I sent out an ask. But if anybody can find that, please send it my way and I can help Scott out. Do we have any more super chats in here that we want to get to before we bring in Scott? No? All right. Well, Scott, I'm gonna click you in, Scott, if that's okay. Oh, we have Seth Harmon coming in, $4.99. Do you guys think the Broncos sent an offer to Teddy for another year? That is last case scenario. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think Teddy wants to come back. Also, I think that's just me speaking for him, but he deleted his social media after interacting with Bronco fans for a bit because it was getting a little dicey from some of y'all, not you guys in the chat, but just, y'all kind of situation. So I don't think Teddy's going to be back. I also don't think the Broncos are going to want to pay Teddy what another team would probably pay him, right? You've already seen him here. You've had the Teddy experience. You kind of get what he is. Somebody else that's not as familiar with him would be like, oh, we can still get, XYZ out of him because he's a former first round pick. The Broncos did this. Imagine what we could get out of him. That classic trap. So I don't think it's going to happen, seeing Teddy here for another year. If it does happen, a lot of things went wrong leading up to it, essentially.
Yeah. It'd probably be option about G or H for the Broncos. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if something's gone wrong, I'd say they'd probably turn towards Drew Lock before they would Teddy again.
In this scenario,
just because of cost of what you have to pay him kind of thing. But got Rodney coming in again. Thank you, Rodney. I really liked when the Broncos ran the 2 tight end set, extra bodies to open lanes for the run game. Go Pookie.
Go Pookie. Jetty Splash coming in, $2. How does one measure your hands? Pinky to thumb. Right? That's just boop, right across.
Yep. So you got to get that spread out as far as you can. And
yep. And the rumors that Pickett, the hands measured 8 and an 1/8 inch. It's 8 1/8 or 8 1/4. Either way, it's the smallest hand ever recorded. There's never been a hand that's been recorded smaller than that in the history of the NFL Combine for the quarterback position, which is concerning, to say the least, dating back to 1999, the data that I poured over. And there's only been one quarterback recorded with equivalent hand size, and I think that was the Princeton quarterback a few years ago. I want to say his name is Kevin Dotson. It's that's for some reason in my head, but either way, concerning. That's how you measure it. Is it an issue? I don't know. Go play in Arrowhead in 10-degree weather and snow, and we'll find out, I guess.
All right, we got Isaias. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, it says, thank you for the stars, Isaias. Imagine putting a team together of all the dysfunctional players in NFL history. They'd win a few games. Who are your favorites? MHH. That's a great question. So, Aqib Talib has to be up there, because he was, I don't know. You never knew what Aqib Talib was going to do. I still remember the whole, him shooting his own foot. That was a whole weird thing, and how that all ended up. Of course, the snatching of the chain. Did you ever watch his videos that he did of talking to when he
while playing pool?
Yeah,
amazing.
That was one of my favorites. If you ever get a chance, go look it up on YouTube. Aqib Talib pool table, you'll be able to find it. But he was one of those dysfunctional guys that you just never knew. Brandon Marshall's another favorite of mine. I knew he battled a lot of mental health issues, but still a great player. I still remember one play that he had for the Broncos where he made 8 guys miss on one single play. And I can't remember another receiver. And it wasn't like he was outrunning them. It was actually they missed the tackle. They touched him. They couldn't get him down. And I wish he could have got everything under control early in his career with his mental health, because I think he could have turned into one of the best wide receivers in NFL history.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's I got to throw Bill Romanowski out there as far as dysfunctional, because he's kind of a psychopath, but I enjoyed his game growing up. I thought he was a lot of fun. Big personality. Claude Riley coming in. Go Broncos. Love the positivity, Claude. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for the support. Isaiah's coming back in with more support. Thank you so much, Isaiah. We appreciate you. I think there might have been a Carson Strong super as well somewhere on there, but we're going to get to some Carson Strong talk here in a bit. Josh coming in saying QB class not as bad as people say. Group think right now. There's always nuance to this, I would say. The quarterback class is not as bad as people say, is totally dependent on what you think good or bad is. If there's a class with what would you think about a class that's coming into the league with a Kirk Cousins and 5 Andy Daltons? Like our Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, and 4 Andy Daltons. Is that a good class? I mean, compared to the history of the league coming in, that's good quantity of borderline starters. But I don't see anybody that's an obvious prospect that would grade as a future franchise quarterback. Tom Brady wasn't graded that way. Russell Wilson wasn't graded that way.
Yeah, I'm with
you.
Et
cetera. But
go ahead. Yeah, I just think a lot of people have kind of been saying, "Oh, this is the 2013 class." I think they're better than that, but it's still a class that, just like you said, you don't see anybody that has that top end ability of, like I said earlier, of can they go throw for throw with Patrick Mahomes if they reach their full potential of what you think they could be. Malik Willis, maybe because of his incredible athleticism, but he's got the farthest to go just in his mental side of the game, I think, of the top guys. And so a lot of questions there for them. Every one of these guys just have so many more questions than what you usually have in the past. And there's games where you like, there's throws that you like, but there's just so much bad out there as well. Like Matt Corral is supposed to be like the top guy in this draft class. He has a couple games in college of throwing like 6 interceptions
against Arkansas.
It didn't just happen once. It happened a couple times to the guy. Yeah. And you're just going, you don't usually see that for your top guys. Like, people were ripping on Justin Fields for that Indiana game, the year before he was drafted, and going, oh my gosh, he threw 2 interceptions. And I'm going, and people are wanting to take Matt Corral top 10, and they're getting after Justin Fields for having one bad half of football there. And so again, it's just, I don't mind these guys. It's just none of them make me excited and say, Broncos, please trade up and go get this guy. And most of them are making me say, please don't take this guy at 9. Even most of them are saying, please don't take them before like pick 25. And that's just not where you want to be when you're looking for a franchise quarterback.
Desperation, Carl, desperation. Travis coming in. I hope we don't bring Teddy back. Honestly, it would just be nice to have a good quarterback. Of course, we want a true long-term answer at quarterback. Just tired of trying to win with Band-Aids. Broncos fans, it's unfortunate, but this is the reality of most teams in the NFL, right? Especially what we're seeing right now. If you don't have one of the top 8 quarterbacks in the league, good luck and try again next year. And that's something that we've been screaming on here. If you don't know that you have one of those guys, you should probably be looking and trying to upgrade the position. But alas, we find ourselves where we thought we were. At least the Broncos team around them, though, around the quarterback position, is pretty solid. You have a lot of resources to improve that team and give yourself a chance to go in and maybe bring in a Matt Stafford kind of trade if that presents itself. Then you can go in on next season. But it's rough, and we all want to find that quarterback. And until you have him or an all-time historic defense, probably not going to go very far. And that's the thing. That people are like, oh, why don't you just try the 2015 defense? It's like, it's hard to get a franchise quarterback. It's even harder to have one of the best single defenses of all time in the history of the game. That's like, probably right. You need to look at our probabilities here. Franchise quarterback, hard to find, harder to field the best all-time defense.
Yep. All right, we got John Houston coming in here saying, Carson Strong, arm, size, great stats, why no talk? One, because we're going to talk to Scott here pretty soon, and I'm sure he's going to talk about Carson Strong and the other quarterbacks and what they showed here today. I like Carson Strong. I really do. He's going to be in my top 3 quarterbacks for this upcoming draft. Yeah, top 3. I said it. And there's a lot of good tape. He's got a really good arm for the NFL. He's worked within kind of a pro system there with Nevada. I mean, it's not quite pro, but like he's making pro throws into tight windows on some of his plays. He's got a great deep ball that you love to see. And I know Hackett talked about that, of wanting to really push the ball down the field. Broncos haven't been able to do that, especially with Teddy. So there's a lot to like there. I'm not sure if he's the perfect fit for Hackett, because Hackett does like to move the pocket, or at least what they did in Green Bay. They like to move the pocket. They like to do a lot of play action. They like to get their quarterback on the move. And Carson Strong, not the greatest thrower on the move.
I mean, part of that is because he does need surgery. He's playing kind of on a bum knee. That's going to have something on it eventually. Kind of running out there. Like some of the tape of him at Nevada looked like he was like shot in the leg or something. Just not like that. You're really favoring that leg, buddy. It's an issue. But he does have a very good arm. I would say from what I don't think it was a hot take actually, but I'm in a group chat and I said like Malik Willis has the best natural arm talent of any of the quarterbacks in this draft. And I got a bunch of pushback saying, "Oh, how could you not say it's Carson Strong?" I think it's definitely Malik Willis that has the strongest arm. Carson Strong does have a fine arm. It sounds like it was better today than Pickett and Ritter, which is concerning for Ritter given the frame that he has and whatnot. But I digress. Big thing with Carson Strong that I thought was interesting. There was an interview done by Jordan Palmer, brother of Carson Palmer, that said that Carson Strong never really had great biomechanical, technical coaching for the quarterback position, and that Jordan Palmer believes that he still has a good amount of velocity still to unlock by improving his mechanics. So we'll see if that moves along. Biggest reason Strong's not up there is it's because of the knee. There's some talk that he's going to have a cadaver ligament placed in his knee, which could then be a full year out of the league after that. Sometimes it doesn't take. So that's a concern. It's the knee that is the big concern from him. Also, the other thing is he's by far the worst athlete of this group. And we just heard Mike Tomlin talk about it, the end of season press conference for the Steelers, saying like mobility is a must have at the quarterback position going forward in today's NFL. If I can pick my guy, shots at Ben Roethlisberger, you be the judge. But he does not, Carson Strong does not fit that mold. Mark from Georgia.
Yep.
What's up, guys? How y'all been? Nick moved the sticks Kendall. I love it. And Professor Dumler. Nick moved the sticks Kendall. I like it. We're in on that. Appreciate you so much, Mark. Great to see you. Rodney coming in saying one linebacker I miss is Todd Davis. What's your guys' opinion of him? A fine linebacker. One of the reasons I have a key core belief that you don't have to spend big to find competency at linebacker. You can find guys off other teams' practice squads like Todd Davis. He's fine. He had a good career here. And I like what he's doing now in the Broncos media side of things. I'm doing some interviews and whatnot. So good guy. We also have Travis Tarbox coming in saying Brandon Marshall was definitely a stud. Could be talking about multiple Brandon Marshalls here, speaking of linebackers. Plus, he learned from Rod Smith, the wide receiver. He was a stud. You're talking about the disgruntled players. Brandon Marshall up there for sure. He got his things figured out, though. So that's good to see. Chase Wellner, would you guys run a live mock in the future? We definitely will. Want to talk to Scott about it, but maybe doing a mock draft Mondays in the morning on those Monday shows before the draft or something like that, doing the top 10. But we'll definitely be doing some mocks in the future. Last year, I only did one official mock draft myself, which was fun because sometimes they kind of oversaturate the market, but we'll definitely be doing some.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. The more draft stuff that we can do, the more that you guys want us to do, the happier we're going to be. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that. That's what brought Nick and I together was the draft. So, and our love of St. Louis Cardinals and Broncos. And there's a lot of things that Nick and I have in common, but the draft is one of the biggest. And so we'd love to do a live mock draft on here sometime. I know we've done like alternating picks before. I know you and Scott did that recently, and but we could do a full Broncos mock draft sometime. We'll just do that as we get closer to the draft. Yeah. We got to get through Senior Bowl, get through free agency, some of those things. Then when it becomes full on everything about the draft, that's when we'll get into it for you guys. But we got Steve coming in here with stars. Thank you so much, Steve. Can't tell what that picture is. It's a little tiny for me, but
it looks like a pet. Looks like a dog.
Steve, dog. Okay. I thought squirrel for a second, but
I'm going to have to look it up now because I don't insult. If you called my dog a squirrel, I'd be very upset. He would be upset too.
Okay. I'm sorry, Steve. I insulted you.
No, it's okay. Let's get Scott on here because I'm dying to hear what he has to say. Because some of the Senior Bowl stuff you have via clips on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot, but seeing somebody live there's no replacing it. So Scott, I'm gonna click you on in here. Boom, there he is. Welcome in, Scott. Wearing the Chelsea FC hat and the Adidas stripes. How you doing, Scott? How is things down in Mobile?
I'm doing okay. Things are good. They started about 2 hours late today, which was kind of annoying. Sitting, on a hard stadium bench for an extra 2 hours. So I feel like I'm a little behind where I'd like to be for this show going into the day. Because normally I like to watch all the video I shot, and I only watched the first practice twice. So I need to get through and see the American, it's American and National. Really, it's the South against the world is with some of the East Coast, Virginia thrown in. So it's like Dixie against everybody else when it comes to how these teams are split up. So at a good time. There's actually even some interesting special teams with the Georgia kicker punting it with the wind at his back, and he hit 180 yards. So it was a good day out there.
Well, good. I think the big thing that everybody is dying to know, quarterbacks today. What did you see? Obviously, we're already brushing up against an hour because there's so much news today, but you were there live. Let's go to the first practice. I think that's the biggest one. So that is 3 of the top 5 guys there. Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, and Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I think they broke them up by height, not geography this time. So if you were 6'3" and over, you went to this team. If you were under 6'1", you went over to this other team. No, just kidding. There was times when each one of those quarterbacks made me have a, whoa, that was nice type of throw. And I actually have a couple of plays in here I want to show you. So I'm going to bring these up. And we'll come back on this here. We'll start off. And the first play here is Kenny Pickett to Braylon Sanders. Braylon had a good day. He hit some of the Ole Miss teammates were split up today. So he had a teammate on the other team today. This was a nice throw. A little nice pitch and catch. Uses his body well there to shield off, and nice over the shoulder. The second one here is teammate to teammate. So that's Carson Strong. And he's got his teammate, Romeo, I want to say Dubs, but it's Doubs.
Yeah.
Dubs, Romeo.
I always said
Romeo.
Dobbs.
I'm messing up both his names. What I do know is he's 6'6" and he's a unit. But you watch, nice throw from Carson to a teammate, and you can see how big he is. And this one is Carson Strong to Christian Watson from North Dakota State. And you see how he stops and comes back for it, little back shoulder throw. And Carson appreciates his receiver for making that one. That was a nice one. And then the running backs, it's tough here. But Arizona State's Rashad White. Now 40 would have crushed him in a real game, but he's got some wheels, and that wasn't. He had several nice runs. So the running backs, I thought he really stood out the most. And I'm just starting to get into the line play a little bit because I can go through the skill guys really quick. When they start going 11v11, 9v7, it takes me 3 minutes to watch each play because I'm watching this one. I'm like, okay, who got in? I watch this one. All right, what'd the guard do? What'd the center do? What'd the tackle do? So that slows me down a little bit, but it's much more thorough, and I'm not quite there on the trenches yet. But as far as quarterbacks go, I think the single most impressive thing I saw was Malik Willis throwing into the wind. So like I mentioned, the wind with the punters, there was a really strong wind, and when they flipped the quarterbacks and for the one-on-ones, there was really only one of the quarterbacks who could spin that ball through the wind on the line, and that was Malik Willis. However, when they went to 9v7, 7v7, 11v11, they all struggled, and there's some of that to be expected. It's really hard to play offense. I mentioned that before. If you so much as switch out a center, if you've ever been to an all-star practice, something like this, as soon as they switch out the center, it takes them 5 minutes to get the quarterback center snap right.
Yep.
So it's hard to play offense. So I'm very interested to see day 2, day 3. And one thing I'll caution with everybody is the hot takes. Okay, they're in shoulder pads and helmets today. I watched the quarterbacks on day 1 to get an idea for arm strength and release and that type of thing. I don't watch the lines as much because they're just in shells. I'll move on to the trenches the next 2 days when they go full pads.
Awesome. Well, said a couple things there that I have some questions on. Sorry to cut you off, Carl. Carl's just enjoying himself. How you doing, Carl? Down there below me.
I'm good. I'm just love listening to it.
Yeah.
I miss going to the Senior Bowl, and it is kind of a neat experience to go watch them up close and get to go see those kind of things. And like I said, there's you got to know how to watch and what you're actually watching. And like I said, just because a guy makes a great throw doesn't mean they're going to be a great prospect by any means. And especially when they're in shells. But I appreciate you being down there, being the boots on the ground for us and everything. And it just there's a couple great questions here, but I'll let Nick, you had a question, and then I'll get to those.
Yeah, you talked about the ball spinning from Willis. I saw a tweet today that the 5 best throws all came from Malik Willis today, but also the 5 worst throws probably came from Malik Willis as well. So kind of writing that hot take. Can you agree with that take at all? Is that something?
I wouldn't say the best 5, because I think that each of the 3 quarterbacks in the first day all had good throws. You just saw a couple of them from Kenny, and Desmond threw a couple in there too that were okay. But again, throwing into the wind, Malik Willis had that's what I'm looking for. That's the arm I'm looking for out here. We're talking about Carson Strong. He's got the arm. Does he? I'm not sure that he does. Not at that level. Not at a first round level. What I didn't see though was any problem with his knee. So when you said that he was playing and he still needs surgery, that surprised me, because I actually shot a video of him on a bootleg where he turned it up and ran, and he's running freely, which was very good to see. What I didn't see though was the zip on his passes that I wanted to see with that arm strength. If I'm ranking arm strength, there was a clear 6 out of everybody there, a clear 6. Bailey Zapp, hot take, can't throw at that level. Just
Brett Rippon? Is he Brett Rippon? Because that's been my comp. It's like, sorry, bud, you're smart and you can make some fun throws in college, but NFL throws, you're not hitting those windows.
Watching him, I'm thinking you don't, and I'm watching him go through his reads. He's going through his reads quicker than anybody. I'm like, This is an offensive coordinator. This is a future head football coach in the NFL. Yep. This is a guy who gets the game. You don't throw for 6,000 yards if you can't throw, and you certainly don't throw for 6,000 yards unless you have a good idea what the offense is supposed to be. I mean, he threw for 1,000 yards more than the next closest guy on one less game. But he doesn't have the arm. He was when we were talking, if you're talking about the 5 worst throws, unfortunately, they probably all belong to Bailey Zapp because he was skipping. They were well short. And I felt bad for him last year. And talking about quarterbacks, I think this group of quarterbacks is better than we had last year. Mac Jones is probably better than all of them as far as the consistency.
Can we add real quick? You mean quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl? Last year's Senior Bowl.
At the Senior Bowl. At the Senior Bowl.
Somebody might take that as to talk about a hot take. Okay.
No. Sorry. At the Senior Bowl, you had Sam Ehlinger and Ian Cook, and then you had 2 guys last year that didn't belong. You're like, okay, these guys shouldn't be drafted at all, in Felipe Franks and Jamie Newman. Like, they might be nice big athletes, but they can't throw.
Yeah.
And I don't see that here. Again, this reminds me back, you mentioned Andy Dalton. I was here when Andy Dalton was here. And there were 4 guys like that. You're like, all right, I don't see a whole lot of hill of beans worth separating these guys. And I think Andy went late first, early second, somewhere in that range.
AJ Green, Andy Dalton paired draft, that 2000.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the group of guys, it was all just, I think Kellen Moore might have been in that group, actually, now that I think about it. I was trying to think of who all was there. Now that just clicked in my memory. So again, there isn't anybody here. When you talk about who has the most to lose, I think Kenny Pickett has the most to lose. There isn't anybody in here. I'm more convinced than ever that I don't want a quarterback in the top 10. As far as
scary,
who, again, if Kenny Pickett can go 6, I see mocks to 6 at Carolina. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you're a little concerned. That's what you want if you're drafting behind Carolina. Yes, take Kenny Pickett, please. Leave one of those other guys for me. So there's a lot to unpack here. We can get into it. So I'll stop monologuing for a second, and you can just you can ask some follow-ups here.
I got to know, you talked about Malik Willis's arm cutting through wind and looking clearly different than everybody else's there. The other quarterbacks had some good throws, but just as far as the pure arm talent, that's been one of the things that on tape, it looked like he had a good arm and could cut through wind and play through some elements. And it was something that a lot of people talked about as one of his better traits. And I'm talking about Sam Howell. Did Sam Howell's arm pop at all? Or is he just kind of, bigger, kind of thicker guy, shorter, but maybe not truly an elite arm?
Sam Howell didn't throw like Malik did. And he was very similar to Malik. You can see the athleticism there. I mean, I think you mentioned yesterday or this morning. I get my days mixed up already, Nick. It may have been this morning. He's built like a running back. He's just a shade over 6 foot, 220 pounds. Good arm. Don't get me wrong. Good arm. Like I said, the arm talent here is better than we had last year at the Senior Bowl. Considerably.
Kyle Trask.
Considerably better than what we had last year. So, and it was super windy today. And what I saw with Malik was if he had to go through reads. So as soon as he was fantastic in 1v1s. Okay. I get to drop back. I get to set my foot. I get to make my throw. He was fantastic. As soon as he had to then go through reads, reset his feet to make a third read throw, his accuracy was way off. And that was the bit of the concern. But again, nobody really hit those that well. The only one that was on point was probably Bailey Zapp, but he was skipping them there. That's nice if you're throwing the ball to second base to throw a guy out stealing, but that doesn't do you much good. That doesn't do you a whole lot of good, quarterback. John coming in says, have Kennedy rate the arm strength 1 to 6, please. 1 was Malik, 6 was Bailey Zapp. After that, it starts getting real close. I might go Sam Howell 2. I might go Kenny Pickett 3, and then 3, 4, and 5 are all right there. The three guys that are on the everyone else team, the national team, they're all pretty close. Pickett and Ritter and Strong are very similar. There's not a lot to separate those guys just yet.
Yeah, interesting. That also surprises me to have Kenny Pickett with better arm talent in your eyes, based on first viewing, over Carson Strong, who a lot of people have talked about having a plus arm. So
it was okay again, and he may not have juiced up on one yet too.
Yeah.
He may have more natural arm talent, so he's just relaxed. He's more relaxed throwing the ball, and when I get to see more throws, because the national team did a lot more underneath stuff today. As opposed to the American squad, where they got to throw long balls into the wind. I got to see their arm talent a little bit better. So again, all it did was confirm to me that I don't want a quarterback in the top 10. But it'd be great to get one of these guys in the second. There's no reason why you can get one of these guys. Again, Nick, you say all the time, I put him in tiers, and I want the 6th guy of this bunch. Putting Matt Corral in there because you just took Bailey Zapp and just put a strike through his name on your board. But Matt Corral being the 6-1, and you see which one is, maybe I've got 2 or 3 available at the bottom of the second or the top of the third. And now I'm real interested for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I wanted to get to Clayton had a couple great questions here for you. Scott, who stood out the most and who disappointed you the most today?
I think the Tennessee wide receiver, is it Velus Jones?
Yeah.
Was fantastic today.
Interesting.
He was really, really good. The wide receiver on the American team from Ole Miss that was not Braylon Sanders. So Dontario Drummond. He had a tough day. He had a tough day. I bet I counted as many drops from him as everyone else combined.
Wow.
Because they're running on air most of the time. A lot of it was we're teaching these guys our patterns. There's a little bit of one-on-ones just to get their juices flowing and have some fun at practice, and give something for the media to show up for and talk about. But a lot of it's throwing on air. And Dontario Drummond really, really struggled today. I want to kind of go back through some of the players that we talked about. Falele, is he a reach at 9? Yes, he is. I'm not positive he's a tackle at all, actually.
Wow.
Watching him move lateral, he's got enough size that he can probably get away with it. But his lateral movement, when we get to pro days and combines, and I'll take 2 questions here at once, his shuttle, I think, is going to be substandard. Because his lateral movement to me looked like it struggled a little bit. So he's massive. Don't get me wrong. He is absolutely huge and he's really strong, but he's going to have trouble dealing with left defensive ends that can move. And And yes, the 40-yard dash is incredibly overrated. Y'all have heard me say before, if you take the statement out of context, I'll sound like an idiot, but that's what I say speed. The 40-yard dash is overrated. If I scratch the 40-yard dash out and just use the shuttle and three cone, I could tell you who the best athletes are. I can get these tricked up, North Atlanta Metro kids that have been going to professional trainers since they were 12 years old, and you can shave 0.3 of a second off your 40 time with technique. You can't fake the three cone vertical jump, L cone. The L cone's the same as the three cone and shuttle. And most of the time people don't train for that. So it's pure athleticism. So when I'm going to look at the L cone on Falele, that's going to tell me a lot. It's going to confirm, I think, what I've already seen. And the reason why the 40 works on the big guys is because they are athletic enough to not run out of steam after 30 yards. It means they're decent athletes.
Yeah.
They're not complete. They're not too much out of shape. But speaking of offensive linemen, wait till you see Matt Valetsko out of North Dakota State. Just a shade over 6'6" and a lean 310, and he could play at 340 without breaking a sweat. And he looked really, really good today. So if we're looking for our sleepers, see, I hate saying sleepers because I don't know where everybody's ranked. It's like, yeah, Scott, so-and-so had him going 15 overall. A nice sleeper pick. Oh, yeah, sorry. North Dakota State, but again, he's 6'6" and change, 310 pounds and lean. And when he was moving guys, because I forgot the color of the helmets, Nick. So I was like, oh, that must be the kid from Northern Iowa. And I was like, no, that's a purple helmet. But I took a
North
look
Dakota, right? North Dakota, not North Dakota State. Okay.
I'm sorry. The receiver was from North Dakota State, and Matt Valetsko was from North Dakota.
Yes. Okay.
Christian Watson was NDSU, I believe, who had a nice day today. So, but Matt Valetsko, big green helmet. Keep an eye on him as a tackle prospect. I'd take him over Jalen Mayfield right now.
Wow. That's interesting information. Good to hear about some of these names. I'm excited to hear what you have to say more about the trench play going forward. Before we get on out of here, though, because I know you got probably more work to do, tape to watch, and you got another full day tomorrow. We heard a lot about quarterbacks. We heard a lot about wide receivers, some running back talk to. Defensive backs. You got to give me my DBs. I didn't hear any, how did they do in one-on-ones? Or I know it's early on, but you kind of can figure out at least who can't hang from some of these drills early on, at least in my opinion. Did anybody stand out?
Here's what you're going to have to do for me because I haven't had time. Okay. I've gone through.
Put you on the spot.
No, I've gone through and I look at my I could share my screen and show you exactly how I do this. I take a player and I take the player, the play, that's a file number because for my camera, and then I say which player stood out in that play. And I have to put them down as jersey numbers, and then I have to go back and find out. So 21 and 22 on defense.
Do you have helmets?
Really good. I don't know who they are. I have to go and find and see if I can find a group shot where I shot in on the back of their jerseys to see where they are because I haven't had time yet because I was watching that part of it right before we came on here. And I can't find a roster with jersey numbers anywhere. And I don't talk to people. It's not like I'm going to go up and ask somebody.
Hey,
so
sir.
I was like, I'll figure it out. Give me a few days. I'll figure it out. But 21 and 22 had very, very nice days for the national team. You figure out who it is. And put numbers on your damn rosters.
Well, hopefully we'll get it. I put out some feelers. Hopefully I need to find some for you. But probably should get on out of here.
The jersey numbers.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can get that.
All right.
here.
And gentlemen in the chat, just because I'm not in here, enough with the talk about the accusations and all of that stuff. Enough. Move on.
You heard it. Dad's mad. No, you're right. It's too much. It's rough. We're going to see how it plays out. And obviously we have our own walks of life that can lead to our own opinions and takes on this. But I think the best thing we can all agree on is that we need to see more information come out and hopefully the truth will be revealed. So thank you so much, Scott, for being down there. Hopefully you can get some rest. I don't know if you are, I know you are probably not heading down to Veets. I know that's typically a big elbow brushing spot down there in Mobile.
No, I don't socialize. I watch my video and I go to bed and I get up early. So the 2 videos I'm going to put out tonight, or at least tomorrow morning at the latest, by the time everybody gets up, is I'll put up the throws of Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett. I think those are 2 of the people that are most interested, and I'm almost done logging that video, so it won't take me too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. Hope, again, talking about the Broncos stuff going on. Hopefully the truth will be revealed. It's a rough situation. It's a black eye on the league and the Broncos, no matter what. But hopefully it can get better. And, hopefully the Broncos found the right guy. And we got new ownership coming in, new general manager. It's in the past, at least in that regard as well. So hopefully we can be happy about this team. Happy to have Scott down here. So one comment coming in from Silent One. Not a draft guy, but I'd love to know how Scott and Nick graded someone like Mahomes in 17. I ask because it seems like the opposite of an exact science to me, specifically at the quarterback evaluation. I'll be honest with you. In 2016, I only did a very peripheral viewing of the quarterbacks because the Broncos just took a quarterback in Paxton Lynch, and I was told that it's not likely that they're going to take a quarterback. So I spent a lot of time on receivers, offensive tackles, defensive linemen in that class. I think that was the Garrett Bowles class as well. So I had a lot of offensive line takes in that one. Did not really get to grade Patrick Mahomes, but you're right. I mean, it fluctuates year to year as far as the quarterback stuff. Quarterback's hard. It's definitely not an exact science. I will say that right now, it does seem like you need a guy with some superhero traits to really become an elite quarterback in the NFL. There are not many guys playing like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady that are the elite of the elites of the young quarterbacks. But there's different ways to win. There's different ways to execute. It is a game about getting the ball to your playmakers in space, in time. It'll always be about that. So different ways to win, but I do think the superhero traits matter.
And Silent One, you're absolutely correct, because the quarterback position, football is an athlete's game. You hear guys talking all the time, I was a college basketball player until my junior year in college. Then I decided to pick up football, and now I'm a first-round draft pick. That doesn't happen in any other sport. It doesn't. There's more athleticism. The skill versus athleticism boundary leans much more towards athleticism in football, except at the quarterback position. The quarterback position depends the most on stuff you cannot measure, which makes it so much harder to evaluate. But you generally, the it factor, the intangibles, you can generally see it. So it makes it hard to say, okay, is Mac Jones going to be the guy? He doesn't have an arm of these other players, but he handles the pressure so well. Joe Burrow, and I didn't watch those guys, and you mentioned Mahomes, because I didn't scout Mahomes for the NFL draft. But one of the first shows I did on Mile High Huddle, we were talking about Deshaun Watson. I saw a lot of Deshaun Watson, and he had it. When you see it, you know it. He didn't have a huge arm. He had not a below average. He had maybe an average NFL arm, but he didn't have a plus NFL arm. Not huge, not all that fast. Doesn't really like to run, but he was calling his own plays at the line of scrimmage in high school. This is the smartest quarterback I ever saw. And all he's done is lead and win and win and win. The off-field stuff, we're talking about the quarterback, Deshaun Watson. So that's what I saw in Deshaun Watson. Now, that's what you're looking for when you're going beyond the physical skill or all those type of things. And it's tough. It's tough because then you're still not sure. Man, I love this guy, Nakobe Dean. I love Nakobe Dean. Love him for all the same reasons I love Deshaun Watson. He's brilliant. He's a hard worker. He's an incredible leader. But what if he's just not big and fast enough? That's a question. I believe in him. I do. But it becomes a question that way.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we're excited to see what tomorrow can bring for the practices. Hopefully it's a better day for the Broncos. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. Make sure you're following us. Carl, you have anything you want to say before you get on out of here?
No, just thanks, Scott. I really appreciate all that information. And I'm excited to listen in and see what you have to say for the next few days here. And I love the Senior Bowl. I really do. And I'm excited to see what all comes of this and how these quarterbacks really separate themselves. Because like you said, a lot of them are close in a lot of areas. The tape itself is close. And so you're kind of hoping here at the Senior Bowl, somebody would separate themselves, and
it might be
see
tough.
how it plays out.
It might be tough. Again, I mentioned before we even got started that this would be where Malik Willis would not shine at this event. And if he did, you've got something, because he'll bring stuff to the table that maybe only Sam Howell can match. Maybe, the running and the escapability and all that, the improvisation and all that type of stuff. So we'll see. I saw, again, I think the accuracy will come along, and because you'll get more familiarity with the receivers, and the timing will sync up a little better as long as the weather holds off. It's supposed to rain a little bit tomorrow.
Well, hopefully, if it does rain a little bit, will they just move them all inside, or would they make them go out in the elements?
There is no inside.
There is no inside now. There used to be inside.
Okay. I haven't been here when they've gone inside. I've been out here freezing our butts off before.
Okay. Yeah, it's I think of it inside a few years ago when the Mac Jones, it must have been even last year, because there was the Mac Jones tapes, highlights that were going around. It's like, well, it's inside. And then the weather was windy the next day. I could have sworn there was an inside practice.
I was here last year, and all 6 practices were outdoors.
Gosh, I feel like I remember there was really bad weather with an inside practice at the South Alabama University practice facility. I don't know.
I didn't think they had an indoor here. They do have one that's under it's roof,
like a bubble,
but not a bubble. Yeah.
Yes,
so
I remember
they may have done some stuff over there and moved some folks over there. And Nathan says, "I hope the practices start on time tomorrow." Me too. I hope they do as well. Again, because it cuts into your it cuts into what I'm able to do for you. I told Nick, I'm like, I feel obligated. I need to know this stuff. I need to see it. I need to be ready. Y'all are counting on me.
Yeah.
And I admit I didn't get to rewatch a second practice today.
Well, we'll let you get to it. We're going to get on out of here. We appreciate you guys. You guys can follow Scott and Carl and myself on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. We'll be live tomorrow on Scott's channel. Check us out tomorrow morning. Carl, you can find at Carl Dumler MHH, and I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, please join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and /Mile High Huddle Pod. If you have some time and you're on YouTube and you haven't done so yet, what are you doing? Subscribe, like, and share to the show for Huddle Up, Mile High Huddle over on YouTube. And again, we're going to be live on Scott's channel tomorrow at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Scott and I'll probably powwow about this afterwards, or discuss it afterwards. But thank you guys so much for joining us in the chat today. I know it was a touchy subject overall, which can lead to some very strong reactions, but we're humans. Hopefully the truth will come out, and hopefully, normal people learn from their mistakes. If there are mistakes here, though, smarter people learn from other people's mistakes. That's what I've learned almost 30 years on this earth. So if something went wrong there, hopefully we can learn from it and grow from it. You guys stay safe. We love y'all. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Go Broncos.